to you about the trees in Murder of Crows, The Winged Fox. Roman, the main character's father, is a sort of tree magician, and he works with the oaks and the trees, the nature spirits, and the species itself of actual physical trees in this book to develop adapted species so that they can survive climate change. Though in this book, climate change isn't what we're going through on Earth. It's kind of the opposite. It's magical, but it's like a freezing fog. So everything's kind of freezing and turning to dust and getting sucked underground and recycled into energy that's being harvested for some nefarious purposes. So one of the ways I wanted to explore magic as like an evolutionary property or skill to kind of like change your DNA in order to survive, can meld their energy together. Excuse me, it's bumpy. That if it is something that is mutually agreed on, then they have this extra energy and power to be able to create bridges to different dimensions or travel together between dimensions and open up new doorways where that's more power than they have as an individual, and it's more power than they have when they or one of the villain spirit guide characters involuntarily spies through the consciousness of another being. Now, I have that illustrated in this book as animals in the forest having glowing red eyes, and then some of the spirit guides have glowing eyes, but they have their own color, like white or blue. I don't know if that's clear. You'll have to tell me if that comes through in the text or if it just helped you sort of subconsciously pick up what's going on. It's called protrusions in this book because you are basically sticking your head into the swimming pool of somebody else's dimension of reality and looking around using their face. Kind of a weird idea, actually, but I wanted it to not be completely black and white. So beyond the idea of consent, I actually tested having Kung, the main love interest, sort of co-hero of the book, use a protrusion to first use a book journal portal to like hop from consciousness to consciousness by writing himself a narrative. That's how he gets it started in the book. And then to sort of like, well, it's astral travel, but he's actually physically doing it in this book. And then we're also combining that with the idea of the protrusion or the seeing through the eyes of another. So he uses a corpse that's being pulled underground as a dead one that couldn't survive the fog, and he jumps into the mind or the body casing of this corpse as it's dying and gets pulled underground and uses it to trace where the bodies are going. So he ends up in a bit of a pickle using that technique. I'm not recommending it, but for this book, I thought that would be an interesting way to explore the idea so that it didn't become this sort of nannying sense of like black and white, good and evil. It is just a technique, and how you use it determines whether it's good or evil, I guess. I think that's how I did it. A lot of earthly, nature-based wisdom traditions really resonate because it helps me understand a more cooperative, less hierarchical, I guess less patriarchal, but I mean, I don't care if patriarchy is healthy, it just, isn't in any case that I've seen. I like that sort of, idea of the earth as a web of creatures in a circle rather than some sort of like artificial pyramid where humans are at the top. I understand that we have advanced brain development and consciousness to be able to have such complex societies and whatnot, but animals are a lot closer to that than most people think. So more on that another day. But yeah, let me know what you think. I think the idea of protrusions, I made up that word, but just so you can kind of understand what it means. In the case of the book, it's not just being in the consciousness of another person, it's actually being in their consciousness and traveling with them into a different realm of reality. It's a travel technique, or or a spying technique. So it's a little different than you might run into it out in the real world in a spiritual tradition or a shamanic tradition. But yeah,